The bridal suite shimmered in soft, ivory tones. Sunlight filtered through tall windows, casting a glow on Alora's lace gown as she stood before the mirror, barely breathing. Her best friend, Timmy, knelt beside her, adjusting the hem of her dress with the precision of a seamstress and the heart of a sister. "You look like a dream, Lo," Timmy said, her voice low, reverent. Alora forced a smile. "Feels like one." But her fingers fidgeted at her side, tugging at a satin ribbon. Her eyes, usually clear and confident, flickered with something unsteady. It wasn't nerves. It was deeper. Across the room, Mrs. Ez marched around like a stage director, hair pinned in a flawless chignon, makeup untouched by sweat or time. She radiated control. "Photographer will be here in 10 minutes, she said. "Lipstick, bouquet, smile." Alora didn't respond. Her gaze drifted to the window, her chest tightening with every tick of the clock. A sudden knock at the door disrupted the carefully choreographed calm. A young hotel staffer poked his head in, flustered. "Madam, there's a man at the gate. Says he's her father." Silence dropped like a glass shattering on marble. Mrs. Easy's face darkened instantly. "What nonsense! He's not on the guest list." Timmy looked between them, confused. "Your father? Lo, what is going on?" Alora's lips parted, but no words came. Her throat tightened. Her pulse surged. Then footsteps echoed down the hallway. Security flanked a tall, grey-suited man who stood with quiet dignity, hands behind his back. He looked older, thinner, but unmistakably familiar. Patrick, the man who vanished 2 decades ago, leaving nothing but rumours and a ruined family name. Alora didn't move. Her eyes locked on his. Her breath caught. Patrick stepped forward, just as security tried to block him. His voice was calm, but his eyes were burning with urgency. "I won't cause a scene," he said. "I just need her to have this." He held out a sealed envelope. "If she marries Amika," he said slowly, "she'll regret it for the rest of her life." Mrs. Ease snapped, "Get him out of here. He's just here to ruin everything again." But Patrick didn't fight. He placed the envelope gently on the table and turned to Alora, voice cracking now. "You deserve to know the truth." And then he was gone, led out without a struggle. No final words, no chaos, just that envelope. Alora's hands trembled as she reached for it. Timmy tried to speak, but Alora shook her head. She didn't open it, not yet. Instead, she tucked it deep into her purse and clenched it shut like a vault. From outside, the wedding bells began to chime, but inside her heart, something had already shattered. The night before the wedding, Alora sat alone in her hotel suite, the air conditioning humming softly while the city buzzed far below. Her bridal gown hung on a golden hook by the window, glowing under the warm light. Yet, she couldn't sleep. Her phone screen lit up with well wishes, emojis, photos from the bachelorette weekend. But none of it eased the tightness in her chest. She'd always been the composed one, the planner, the fixer, a marketing executive with a reputation for precision and creativity. Alora knew how to sell a dream, even when living one felt impossible. Her success hadn't come from privilege or connections. She'd built it from the ground up, fueled by the need to rewrite her family's story. When she met Amika at a tech conference in Abuja, she hadn't planned to fall. He was charming, attentive, and said all the right things. His background glowed with power, the kind of family with influence, wealth, and legacy, the kind her mother believed they needed to attach themselves to in order to erase the shame that clung to them like smoke. The proposal came fast, too fast, but everyone cheered. Her mother cried, Timmy raised a toast, and Alora, tired of holding out for something perfect, said yes. She ignored the signs, the way Emeka once mocked her father during a dinner party, the subtle digs at her independence, the way he always insisted on making the final decision, even about her own business ideas. When she hesitated, he'd smile and say, "Don't overthink, just trust me, babe." Her mother, Mrs. Ease, had no space for doubt. A man like Amika doesn't come around twice. You don't let emotions ruin opportunities. Be smart like your mother. Alora hated that she knew what that meant. Her mother had spent the last 20 years rebuilding their lives brick by brick after Patrick's disgrace. One morning, when Alora was just 8, he'd left the house with his briefcase and never came home. The news that followed said it all. Embezzlement, fraud, investigation, but no trial, no explanation, just silence. They lost their home, their friends, and nearly everything else. Mrs. Ez held them together, but it came at a cost. She hardened. She stopped talking about love and started talking about survival. So when Emeka came along, he wasn't just a suitor. He was a symbol, a fix, a key to restoring their place in society. Alora convinced herself it wasn't about her mother, that she loved him, that she could grow into this life. Timmy saw the cracks. She always did. "You sure about this, Lo?" she asked once, weeks before the wedding, as they sipped wine on Alora's apartment balcony. "You don't sound excited." Alora had laughed it off. "I'm just tired. The planning, the expectations, the media list. You know how my mum is." Timmy had leaned in, voice low. "You're allowed to want more than what's on paper." But Alora hadn't let herself want more. She wanted safety and peace, and maybe, just maybe, a way to finally stop feeling like the daughter of a man who vanished in disgrace. So she let the days pass. She smiled in engagement photos. She let her mother dictate the flower arrangements. She nodded as Emeka's mother suggested seating plans based on political optic. She convinced herself she was walking into love, into legacy, into the life she was meant to have. Now, less than 2 hours before the ceremony, she clutched a sealed envelope from the man she hadn't seen in 2 decades. The man whose shame still lingered in every polite smile, every question left unanswered. Her hands trembled, but her face remained calm. She would not cry. Not now. Not when the world was watching. From behind, Timmy's voice broke the silence. "You okay?" Alora turned slowly. "Yeah, just butterflies." Timmy didn't push. She never did. But Alora's mind was racing, because deep down, beneath the veil and the gown and the glittering ring, she knew she didn't just want to be a wife. She wanted to stop running from shame, from lies, from the fear that everything she'd built was still standing on broken ground. The music swelled as Alora stepped into the aisle, her veil cascading around her like mist. The guests rose, cell phones discreetly recording, smiles shining like polished silver. But Alora didn't see any of them. Her fingers gripped the bouquet tightly, not for steadiness, but to anchor the small envelope tucked within. It pressed against her palm like a heartbeat. She walked slowly, each step deliberate. Her eyes met Emeka's at the altar, tall, handsome, composed. He smiled, but behind his polished smile, something colder stared back, something unreadable. She'd seen it before, a flicker, a mask. Father Paul began the ceremony, speaking of love, unity, and the sacredness of marriage. Alora barely heard him. Timmy stood behind her, the only familiar comfort in a room suddenly filled with strangers. The vows began. Emeka went first, speaking eloquently, carefully, every word calculated to charm. The crowd nodded in approval. Then it was Alora's turn. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Her hands trembled slightly. She swallowed. The world blurred. And then she stepped back. Gasps echoed through the church. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I need a moment." She turned and walked out, slowly at first, then faster, pushing through the side door into the bridal suite. She shut the door, locked it, and backed away. Her breath came in sharp bursts. The envelope slipped from the bouquet into her shaking hands. She opened it. Inside was a crisp folded document, a DNA report, and clipped to it, a photo. 2 people smiling, Emeka and Ada, her soft-spoken, distant half-sister who never quite fit in, the daughter of her father's first marriage. Alora blinked, lips parted in disbelief. The note at the bottom was written in her father's shaky hand. "Their blood. He's her brother. This marriage is a transaction. Emeka is using you to clean up the past, to legitimize what I destroyed. Be careful." Her knees gave way. She sat on the edge of the couch, the paper trembling in her hands. Suddenly, the door burst open. Mrs. E stormed in, veil trailing, face flushed. "What are you doing? Get back out there before you humiliate us." Her voice stopped cold when she saw the open envelope. Alora looked up at her mother. "You knew." Silence. Mrs. E's jaw clenched. "It's not what you think." "You knew Emeka and Ada were related," Alora said, voice shaking. "You knew his mother was Dad's first wife. You knew everything." "It's complicated," her mother snapped. "I did what I had to do. After what your father did to us, we had nothing. Do you know how long I worked to make people forget his name? This marriage restores our place." Alora stared at her, disgust creeping into her voice. "You sold me for respect." Her mother's face broke for just a second. I saved you. No, Alora said. You saved yourself. She stood slowly, the DNA report still in her hand. The music outside continued. But in this room, everything had stopped. Everything had changed. The sun had shifted by the time Alora found Amika standing near the hotel's private garden, away from the noise of confused guests and murmuring relatives. He didn't look surprised to see her, just mildly inconvenienced, like a businessman being asked to renegotiate a deal on the day of the merger. You opened it, he said plainly. Alora's voice was low but steady. Why didn't you tell me? Emeka adjusted his cufflink, took a breath, because it wouldn't have changed anything. She stepped closer. You're my stepbrother. Ada is your half-sister. We're not blood, he said quickly, like a lawyer correcting technicalities. Your father married my mother before you were born. It was annulled. This isn't as scandalous as you think. Alora's jaw clenched. It's deception. You manipulated me. All of you. Amika finally met her eyes. You think this was about love? It was never about that. It was about balance, about restoring what our parents ruined. My mother believes this union would clean the slate, give both families a fresh reputation. Your father dragged your name through the mud. Mine fought to rise above it. So you used me to complete the story, she whispered. I followed orders, he said, and for the first time the charm faded completely. That's what sons like me do. Alora felt her knees go weak. And me? I was just a chess piece. He didn't answer. Back in the bridal suite, she found her mother sitting stiffly on the couch, as if awaiting a verdict. I confronted him, Alora said. He told me everything, or at least enough. Her mother's face stayed blank, but her fingers tightened around her phone. I want the truth, Alora demanded. All of it. Mrs. Ease exhaled. We lost everything when Patrick left. I worked jobs beneath me. People whispered. I was a woman discarded by a criminal. Amika's family offered us an alliance, an opportunity to reclaim respect. I did what was necessary. You bartered me, Alora snapped. You negotiated my life like it was a transaction. I protected you, she insisted. No, Alora said. You protected your image, not me. Just then, the door creaked open. Timi peeked in, then rushed to Alora's side when she saw the tears. What happened? Everyone's talking. I can't marry him, Alora said, voice trembling. None of it's real. Timi turned sharply toward Mrs. Ease, but said nothing. Her eyes said enough. Later, alone in her room, Alora sat by the window, gripping a small box Patrick had given her when they met briefly that morning. Inside were letters, yellowed, folded, worn. Letters he never sent. She opened one. Alora, if you're reading this, I hope the world has been kinder to you than it was to me. I didn't run away. The reception hall glowed with elegance. Crystal chandeliers, rose gold table runners, a string quartet playing softly in the corner. Laughter bubbled through the crowd. Glasses clinked. Guests, unaware of the ceremony's collapse, waited for the grand couple entrance. Then the music stopped. Heads turned as Alora stepped into the room, alone. No veil, no smile, just presence. She walked slowly to the stage where the MC had stood earlier and took the microphone. The quartet stopped mid-note. Silence swallowed the room. Good evening, Alora said, voice clear. Thank you for being here. Cameras rose. A few relatives blinked in confusion. You were invited to a celebration, but today I won't be giving you a fairy tale. She paused. This wasn't a wedding. It was a transaction. Gasps rippled through the room. My mother. Her eyes scanned the crowd until they landed on Mrs. Ease, sitting frozen in a pastel lace gown, brokered a deal to repair a family name that's been stained for 20 years. She turned to the rest. They told me it was love. It wasn't. It was a quiet, orchestrated agreement to make the shame disappear, to bury the scandal my father was framed for, and rewrite history with a polished union. Guests glanced at each other, brows furrowed. Murmurs grew. My fiancé, Amika, she said, the name bitter on her tongue, never loved me. His family used me as leverage, a pawn to erase their complicity in the crime that destroyed mine. She held up a piece of paper, the DNA report. I was nearly married to someone whose family ruined my father's life, and nobody told me. Gasps became whispers. Cell phones captured every second. I was raised to be perfect, loyal, quiet, but today I found my voice. Amika burst through the side doors, storming toward her. Alora, stop. This isn't the place. Security moved faster. 2 men in suits stepped in front of him before he could reach the stage. Alora didn't flinch. I won't be silenced, she said. She turned her gaze to her mother, who sat slumped now, one hand to her chest, the other clutching a napkin like a lifeline. I wanted to believe you protected me, but you protected your pride, not your daughter. Mrs. Ease opened her mouth, but no words came. To everyone in this room, I'm sorry if this ruins your evening, Alora said, voice calm, resonant. But I won't live a lie for your comfort. She stepped back, lowering the mic just a little. I'm walking away from legacy, from lies, from betrayal. I'll rebuild my life without secrets, without shame, just truth. The microphone rang slightly as she placed it down. No music played. Some guests stood in stunned silence. A few clapped, slowly, tentatively, then louder. Others rose quietly and slipped out. Phones kept recording. Hashtags were already being typed, but Alora didn't see them. She stepped off the stage, heels clicking on the marble floor, walking straight past Amika, whose mask had cracked, and past her mother, who looked decades older in the glow of exposed truth. Alora didn't cry. She didn't smile. She just walked out, finally, freely. Weeks passed like slow rain. Alora sat by the window of her new apartment in Abuja, barefoot, sipping ginger tea as the city moved gently outside, not rushing, not watching her. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like she was performing. The air was different here, quieter, kinder. She had left her job 2 weeks after the wedding, not out of shame, but because she no longer wanted to be part of a system that rewarded polish over principles. She registered a new consultancy, Glass Line Strategies, a firm built on one promise: truth-telling, no matter the cost. Her first clients were small NGOs and upstart tech founders who couldn't afford political spin but needed honesty. She felt alive in the work, stripped of glamour, but full of meaning. Timi visited often, helping her unpack, setting up a tiny reading nook with soft pillows and a tall stack of untouched books. You used to read all the time, Timi said one afternoon, brushing her hand over a dusty cover. Before all of them. Alora smiled faintly. I forgot who I was trying to be. Now I'm trying to remember who I actually am. And Patrick, he didn't rush in like a savior. He called first, texted carefully, sent articles he thought she might like. Slowly, they met for coffee, then longer walks. He never asked to be called Dad. He just asked to be allowed. One evening, sitting on a park bench, Alora asked, "Why didn't you fight louder?" He looked up at the sky. "I thought disappearing was better than dragging you through my ruin." "I needed you," she said quietly. "I know." They sat in silence, broken only by the sound of wind between branches. Not healed, but beginning. Amika's family didn't escape clean. News outlets picked up the story after a guest's viral clip hit the internet. Political donors pulled support. A quiet investigation into Chief Nkem's financial history was reopened. Some say charges are coming. Amika tried to control the narrative, but the damage had been done. Mrs. Ease, once the darling of Port Harcourt's elite circle, withdrew from social life completely. The invitations stopped. The whispers stayed. In a quiet moment, she visited Alora's apartment. Her mother sat across from her. No makeup, no mask. "I did it for us," she said. "No," Alora replied, calm but unwavering. "You did it for the version of us you thought people would accept." Mrs. Easy's eyes welled. "I was wrong." Alora nodded. "Yes, you were. It wasn't reconciliation, but it was truth, and for now that was enough." One morning, as the sun crept across her kitchen tiles, Alora wrote in her journal, "I lost everything I was supposed to protect. A future, a family, a legacy. But in the wreckage, I found something better. My voice, my line, my peace." She closed the journal, picked up her bag, and stepped into the light. Alora sat in her modest new office. White walls, potted plants on the sill, a soft hum from the ceiling fan. A steaming mug of lemon tea rested beside her laptop, the scent warm and grounding. She leaned back, the late afternoon sun sliding through the blinds, casting long, golden stripes across the floor. Peace wasn't loud, it was quiet like this. Her inbox chimed, a new message. Subject: PR support for my wedding, urgent. She clicked it open. A woman named Lara wrote, "I need someone discreet. I want a perfect wedding. No drama, No noise, just peace. Can you help? Alora's lips curled into a small, knowing smile. She stared at the blinking cursor for a moment, then typed, Step 1. Be honest with yourself. Always. She hit send. Then she reached over to the small drawer on her desk and opened it slowly. Inside sat the envelope, the one that shattered everything and saved her at the same time. She touched its edge gently, then pushed it to the back of the drawer and closed it. The past didn't need to be forgotten, just put in its place. She looked up, eyes catching the streak of sun now dancing across her desk. She stood, walked to the window, and opened it. The breeze was soft against her skin. Below, the quiet buzz of a bourgeois life moved on. Behind her was everything she had left behind. In front of her was everything she chose. And as the light hit her face fully, Alora whispered to herself, no audience, no mic, no expectations. I didn't lose a wedding. I reclaimed my life. Hi besties, thank you so much for watching to the end. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe.